The massive space station hung in the darkness above Alpha Centauri like a giant metal flower. Its arms stretched out in perfect symmetry, each one the size of a city. Inside the central hub, beings from across the galaxy gathered in the great chamber. The air hummed with different languages and the soft glow of translation devices. Ambassador Zethkral of the Viridian Empire stood at the center of the circular room. His body was made of living crystal that pulsed with angry red light. Around him sat representatives from dozens of alien species, each one more strange than the last. Some floated in tanks of colored gas, while others perched on metal branches that grew from the floor. "The humans have gone too far," Zethkral said, his voice echoing through the chamber like breaking glass. "In 50 of their years, they have spread to 12 star systems. They take what they want and ask permission later." A creature that looked like a walking tree raised one of its branch arms. This was Speaker Velmoth from the Botanical Collective. "The humans learned our technologies in decades. It took my people centuries to master the same knowledge. They are dangerous," added Commander Hixtar, a being with 6 legs and skin like metal armor. "My scouts report that human ships now carry weapons we do not recognize. They modify everything they touch." The discussion went on for hours. Every species had complaints about humanity. The humans traded too aggressively. They expanded too quickly. They asked too many questions about technologies that should remain secret. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to improve on everything they learned. Finally, the council reached its decision. The vote was unanimous. On Earth, President Katherine Williams sat in her office overlooking the rebuilt New York skyline. The morning sun cast long shadows across her desk as her aide entered with a worried expression. "Madam President, we have received a formal communication from the Galactic Council." Catherine took the datapad and read the message. Her face grew pale as she absorbed the contents. The Council demanded that humanity withdraw from all colonies beyond the solar system within 1 galactic year. All trade agreements were terminated immediately. No alien technology would be shared with humans ever again. Earth's provisional membership in the Council was revoked. The sanctions were complete and devastating. Catherine pressed a button on her desk. "Get me Admiral Morrison and Dr. Clark. Emergency meeting in 30 minutes." Admiral Jack Morrison arrived first. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars from the Zephyrian War 30 years ago. His uniform was crisp, and his expression was grim. Dr. Nathan Clark came next, a thin man with glasses who had spent years working with alien species. "They think they can starve us into submission," Admiral Morrison said after reading the message. "Cut off our technology, and we will come crawling back." Dr. Clark shook his head. "This is worse than just economics, Jack. The Council is afraid of us. In 5 decades, we have done things that took other species centuries to achieve. We reverse engineer their technology and make it better. That terrifies them." Catherine stood and walked to the window. Below her, the city bustled with activity. Humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their entire future hung in the balance. "What are options?" she asked. "We could comply," Dr. Clark said quietly. "Abandon the colonies and return to Earth. The Council might allow us limited trade in a few decades." Admiral Morrison slammed his fist on the table. "Abandon 12 worlds? Leave millions of colonists to die? Never." "Then we fight," Catherine said. "But can we win against the entire galaxy?" Admiral Morrison smiled for the first time that day. "Madam President, there are things about our military capabilities that even I am not supposed to know. But I can tell you this: the aliens may have made a terrible mistake." That evening, Catherine addressed the United Earth Assembly. The great hall was packed with representatives from every nation and colony. The atmosphere was tense as she walked to the Podium. My fellow humans, she began. Today the Galactic Council delivered an ultimatum. They demand we abandon our colonies and return to Earth like children being sent to their rooms. Angry voices rose from the audience. Catherine raised her hand for silence. They believe that without their technology, we will wither and die. They think we are dependent on their goodwill for our survival. They are wrong. The hall erupted in cheers. Catherine waited for quiet before continuing. For 30 years, since the Zephyrian War showed us how quickly alien allies can become enemies, we have prepared for this day. We have not been idle. We have not been weak, and we will not surrender. She paused, looking out at the faces before her. These were the descendants of explorers who had crossed oceans in wooden ships. They were the children of inventors who had split the atom and walked on the moon. They were humans, and they did not give up. The Council demands we withdraw from 12-star systems within 1 year. I say no. They demand we cease all expansion beyond our solar system. I say no. They demand we bow to their will and accept their dominance. I say no. The assembly rose to its feet as one, their voices joining in thunderous applause. Humanity will not retreat. We will not surrender. And if the Council wants a war, they will discover that humans fight differently than any species they have ever encountered. As the cheers continued, Catherine thought about the conversation she had scheduled for tomorrow morning. Admiral Morrison had promised to show her things that would change her understanding of humanity's true capabilities. Secret projects that had been running for decades. Hidden preparations that would shock even the most prepared alien minds. Galactic Council thought they were dealing with a young species dependent on their technology and goodwill. They were about to learn that humanity had been preparing for this confrontation since the day they first met an alien race in the depths of space. Automated sensors detected the Council's decision within hours. The message was transmitted instantly to hidden bases throughout human space. Ancient protocols activated. Sleeping systems came online. The galaxy's newest species was about to show its elders what human ingenuity could accomplish. When pushed to the edge, the Council had made their move. Now it was humanity's turn. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council imposed their crushing sanctions on humanity. On the Council's observation deck, aboard their monitoring station in the Proxima system, Ambassador Zethkrol studied the latest reports with growing confusion. His crystalline form flickered between colors as he processed the impossible data. "This cannot be correct," he said to his aide, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Plix. "The human colonies should be dying by now." The reports told a different story. The human settlement on Kepler 438b had not only survived, but had expanded its industrial output by 30%. The mining operations on Volt 359c were producing rare metals at unprecedented rates. Most disturbing of all, the humans seemed to have developed new technologies that the Council had never seen before. "Perhaps our intelligence is flawed," Plix suggested, its tentacles writhing nervously. "Send a surveillance probe," Zethkrol ordered. "I want to see these colonies with my own sensors." Far beneath the surface of an asteroid in the Vesta Belt, General Pete Sullivan walked through corridors that officially did not exist. The facility stretched for kilometers in every direction, carved from solid rock by machines that had worked in secret for 3 decades. This was Deep Forge Station, the heart of humanity's most classified project. General Sullivan was a stocky man with calloused hands and eyes that had seen too much war. He had lost his left arm during the Zephyrian conflict and replaced it with a mechanical one that was stronger than the original. Today, he was giving a tour to the newest member of the Inner Circle. "Dr. Santos, welcome to humanity's insurance policy," he said as they entered the main observation deck. Dr. Maria Santos was a brilliant woman in her 40s who had spent her career designing weapons that could kill alien invaders. She had never seen anything like the vast chamber that stretched before them. Hundreds of automated factories worked day and night, building ships and weapons with technologies that seemed impossible. "How long has this been operational?" she asked, watching as robotic arms assembled what looked like a starship hull. "Construction began the day after the Zephyrian War ended," Sullivan replied. "We learned a hard lesson that day. Never again would humanity depend on alien goodwill for survival." The factories produced vessels unlike anything in the known galaxy. The ships were sleek and deadly, with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Their weapon systems were hybrids of human engineering and reverse-engineered alien technology, creating combinations that no other species had ever attempted. "The Council thinks they know our capabilities," Sullivan continued. "They have seen our older ships and weapons. They believe we are still using technology they gave us 20 years ago. They are wrong." In another section of the facility, Captain Steve Parker ran his hands along the hull of his new command. The ESS Retribution was the first of its class, a vessel that represented 30 years of secret human innovation. It was smaller than the Council's heavy cruisers, but packed with weapons and systems that made it deadlier than anything the aliens could field. Captain Parker was a pilot who had earned his reputation fighting Zephyrian raiders in the outer colonies. He was young for a ship commander, but had proven himself in battles that most people would never hear about. The scars on his face told the story of someone who had survived encounters that should have killed him. "She is beautiful," said Dr. Helen Rooks, the chief engineer who had designed the ship's revolutionary armor system. Dr. Brooks was a quiet woman who spoke softly, but whose ideas had changed the way humans thought about space combat. The armor could reconfigure itself during battle, adapting to different types of weapons fire. Energy beams that would punch through normal hull plating were absorbed and redirected. Kinetic projectiles were deflected by fields that appeared and disappeared in microseconds. "How does she handle?" Dr. Brooks asked. "Like a fighter with the firepower of a battleship," Parker replied. "The Council cruisers are built for long-range bombardment. This ship is designed for close combat, where human reflexes give us the advantage." Professor Tim Johnson approached them from across the hangar. He was the man responsible for the quantum torpedo system that gave the Retribution its primary punch. The torpedoes could phase through normal shields and explode inside enemy ships, making them nearly impossible to defend against. The test firing went perfectly, Johnson reported. The targeting system can track and engage multiple targets simultaneously. A single salvo could cripple a Council battle group. Meanwhile, in a secure communications center deep within the facility, Colonel Amy Foster sat surrounded by screens showing data streams from across the galaxy. She was humanity's best intelligence officer, a woman who could hack alien computer systems as easily as reading a book. "I have intercepted Council military communications," she announced to the assembled officers. "They are planning something they call a demonstration strike." General Sullivan leaned forward. "Details?" "They want to attack one of our colonies with overwhelming force," Foster continued. "The goal is to show us what happens when we defy the Council. They believe a single, devastating blow will convince us to surrender." "Which colony?" Dr. Santos asked. "Mars," Foster replied. "They think our industrial centers there are vulnerable. They plan to destroy the orbital shipyards and force us to watch our manufacturing capability burn." General Sullivan smiled grimly. "Let them come. We have been preparing for exactly this scenario." The Deep Forge facilities were not limited to the asteroid belt. Similar installations operated in secret throughout human space, hidden in locations that Council sensors could never detect. Each one produced ships and weapons designed specifically to counter alien technology. The human fleet that would meet the Council attack bore little resemblance to the vessels the aliens had seen before. These new ships incorporated lessons learned from decades of studying captured alien technology. They were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapon systems that could penetrate any known defense. The Council made a mistake when they cut off our access to their technology, Sullivan explained to his staff during their final briefing. They assumed we would be helpless without their help. Instead, we have had 6 months to prepare without their knowledge of our activities. The surveillance probe that Zethkral had sent arrived at the human colonies 2 weeks later. Its sensors detected normal activity, busy settlements that showed no signs of distress. What the probe could not detect were the cloaked defense platforms that surrounded each world, or the hidden fleet bases that had been carved into asteroids and moons. The humans appear to be managing better than expected, the probe's report concluded. However, their technology levels remain consistent with previous observations. This assessment would prove to be fatally wrong. The Council had been watching humanity's public face, while the real preparations happened in shadows they could not penetrate. The galaxy's oldest civilizations were about to discover that the youngest species had learned to hide its true strength until the moment it was needed most. The Council fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a swarm of metal predators. 200 ships of various sizes and designs represented the combined military might of 7 different alien species. At their head flew the massive dreadnought Cosmic Dominion, a vessel so large it cast shadows on nearby asteroids. War Marshal Quinder stood on the bridge of his flagship, his 4 arms crossed behind his back as he studied the tactical displays. His species, the Kethmori, had conquered 17 star systems in their long history. No enemy had ever withstood their combined fleet actions. Scan for human defensive positions, he ordered his tactical officer, a creature with compound eyes that could process multiple data streams simultaneously. I detect 37 human vessels scattered throughout the system, the officer reported. Their formations appear disorganized. Many ships show signs of age and wear. Quinder's mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The humans had fewer ships than expected, and they appeared to be using older technology. This would be easier than the Council had predicted. Open communications to all human vessels, he commanded. Admiral Jack Morrison received the transmission. Aboard his flagship, the ESS Washington, the bridge around him was quiet and tense as his crew prepared for battle. Morrison was a veteran of 3 alien conflicts, and he knew the importance of making the enemy underestimate human capabilities. This is War Marshal Quinder of the Galactic Council Combined Fleet. The alien's voice crackled through the speakers. You will surrender immediately or face complete destruction. Your colonies will be reduced to ash, and your homeworld will be blockaded until you comply with Council demands. Morrison looked at his communications officer, Lieutenant Kelly Barnes, and nodded. She opened a channel to the alien fleet. This is Admiral Morrison of the Earth Defense Force, he replied calmly. You are trespassing in human space. Turn around and leave, or we will be forced to remove you. Harsh alien laughter echoed from the speakers. You have 40 outdated ships against our 200 advanced vessels. Surrender now, and we will. Make your deaths quick, Morrison smiled coldly. You should have done better research. He cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer, Commander Gary Mitchell. Signal all units. Execute Phoenix Protocol. Across the solar system, cloaked human vessels began to power up their weapons. The mining stations in the asteroid belt revealed themselves to be heavily armed battle platforms. Ships that had been hiding behind moons and planets suddenly appeared on Council sensors. The trap was sprung. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded the ESS Defiance, one of the ships that had been visible to Council scanners from the beginning. Her vessel looked like an older human design, but appearances were deceiving. Hidden beneath the familiar hull were weapons and systems that represented 30 years of secret development. All fighter squadrons, launch when ready, she ordered. From launch bays that had been invisible moments before, streams of small human fighters poured into space. These were not the bulky interceptors the Council had seen in previous encounters. The new fighters were sleek and fast, piloted by humans whose reflexes had been enhanced by neural interfaces. Commander Greg Mitchell led the first squadron of these advanced fighters. He was Rodriguez's younger brother, a pilot who had trained specifically for this type of combat. His ship responded to his thoughts as much as his hands, making maneuvers that seemed impossible to alien pilots. Target the Council escorts, he transmitted to his wing. Stay away from their main guns and use your speed. The Council fleet moved to engage what they saw as a desperate human charge. War Marshal Quinder ordered his ships into their traditional battle formation, a complex pattern that had dominated space combat for centuries. Each vessel knew its position and role, creating overlapping fields of fire that should have destroyed any attacking force. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that refused to follow the established rules of warfare. Captain Steve Parker's ESS Retribution was the first to demonstrate humanity's new capabilities. His ship had been hiding behind Europa, using the moon's magnetic field to mask its energy signature. When the Council fleet committed to their attack formation, Parker struck. "Quantum torpedoes armed and ready," reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. "Fire all tubes," Parker ordered. The torpedoes phased through space in ways that alien sensors could not track. They passed through the Council's defensive shields like they were not there and exploded inside the enemy ships. 3 Council heavy cruisers died in the first salvo, their hulls cracking open like eggs. "Impossible," Quinder whispered as he watched his carefully planned formation collapse. "Those weapons do not exist." The human fighters swarmed through, the Council ranks like angry insects. Their pilots used tactics that seemed chaotic, but were actually carefully coordinated. They would attack from multiple directions simultaneously, forcing the alien gunners to split their attention and reduce their accuracy. Commander Mitchell dove his fighter between 2 Council destroyers, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge energy beams that passed within meters of his hull. His return fire was precise and deadly, targeting weapon systems and shield generators with surgical accuracy. "These humans fight like madmen," one of the Council captains reported over the fleet communications. "They take risks that should be suicide." Dr. Claire Adams watched the battle from her laboratory aboard Deep Forge Station. She was the scientist who had developed the neural interface system that enhanced human pilot performance. The system allowed pilots to react faster than any natural reflexes could manage, giving them a crucial advantage in close combat. "Neural stress levels are within acceptable parameters," she reported to General Sullivan. "The pilots are performing better than our best simulations predicted." The tide of battle turned completely when the hidden human battle groups revealed themselves. Admiral Morrison had positioned his main force behind the gas giant Neptune, using its massive bulk to hide. Over 100 advanced warships. When they appeared, the Council fleet found itself surrounded and outnumbered. "All ships, full attack," Morrison ordered. "Show them what human engineering can accomplish." The new human vessels moved with grace and speed that alien ships could not match. Their adaptive armor systems adjusted to incoming fire while their weapons cut through Council defenses like they were made of paper. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for millennia were destroyed by technology they did not understand. War Marshal Quinder realized his position was hopeless when the Cosmic Dominion began taking damage from multiple human attackers. His flagship, which was supposed to be invincible, was being systematically torn apart by weapons that should not exist. "All ships retreat," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat. "Immediate withdrawal to hyperspace." The Council fleet fled the solar system. in complete disorder, leaving behind 70 destroyed vessels and thousands of dead. The humans had achieved total victory using tactics and technology at the galaxy's most advanced. Military minds could not comprehend that Admiral Morrison watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace and smiled grimly. This was only the beginning. The Council had made the mistake of attacking humanity on their home ground, and now they would learn what happened when humans went on the offensive. President Katherine Williams stood in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House, surrounded by screens showing the aftermath of humanity's victory in the solar system. The scattered wreckage of Council ships drifted among the asteroids like broken toys, but Williams was not celebrating yet. "Admiral Morrison, the Council will not make the same mistake twice," she said. "They will retreat, regroup, and return with everything they have." Admiral Morrison nodded grimly. "That is why we cannot give them time to recover. We need to take the fight to them while they are still reeling from this defeat. What do you propose?" Morrison activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Council military installations, while blue lines showed human trade. Routes and colonies. Operation Sovereign Strike. We hit their key facilities before they can mount a coordinated response. Williams studied the display. The plan was bold and dangerous. Instead of waiting for the next Council attack, humanity would launch simultaneous strikes across multiple star systems. "What are our chances of success?" "Better than you might think," Morrison replied. "The Council's strength comes from their ability to coordinate multiple species. If we can disrupt their command structure and supply lines, their alliance will start to fracture." Within hours, human fleets began moving through space using routes that avoided Council detection grids. The first target was the massive shipyard facility orbiting Kepler 442b, where the Council built their most advanced vessels. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded the strike force assigned to this mission. Her fleet of 12 ships had been modified, with the latest stealth technology, making them nearly invisible to most alien sensors. The ships moved through Council space like ghosts, avoiding patrol routes that Colonel Amy Foster had mapped through intercepted communications. "Target acquired," reported her navigation officer as the shipyard appeared on their screens. The facility was enormous, a collection of construction docks and manufacturing plants that could build 100 ships simultaneously. It was defended by what the Council considered an impregnable network of weapon platforms and shield generators. "Deploy the new torpedoes," Rodriguez ordered. The quantum torpedoes that emerged from her ships were different from the ones used in the solar system. "Battle." These had been modified by Professor Tim Johnson to carry a special payload developed by Dr. Helen Brooks. Instead of simple explosives, they contained devices that could destabilize the quantum foundations that held matter together. The torpedoes phased through the facility's shields and detonated inside the main power cores. The explosions that followed were unlike anything seen before in galactic warfare. Entire sections of the shipyard simply ceased to exist, their atoms scattered across space. "Facility destroyed," Rodriguez reported. "No survivors detected." At the same time, Captain Steve Parker led his battle group toward the Vega system, where the Council maintained their strategic command center. This facility had coordinated Council military operations for over 2,000 years, buried deep within a heavily fortified asteroid that was considered impossible to assault. Parker's solution was typically human in its directness. Instead of trying to break through the asteroid's defenses, his ships used new plasma boring technology to tunnel directly to the command center's core. "Boring operation complete," reported his chief engineer, Lieutenant Dave Watson. "We have a clear path to the target." Parker's Marines, led by Major Kim Foster, Amy Foster's sister, used the tunnel to reach the heart of the alien facility. The Marines wore advanced combat suits that could adapt to any environment, making them nearly invulnerable to most alien weapons. The battle inside the command center was swift and brutal. The alien defenders had never faced human soldiers in close combat before. They discovered that humans fought with a ferocity and unpredictability that their training had never prepared them for. "Command center secured," Major Foster reported. "We have captured their central database and eliminated all personnel." Meanwhile, Colonel Amy Foster herself led the most dangerous mission of all. Her teams had been inserted onto a dozen different worlds throughout Council space, equipped with advanced camouflage systems that made them invisible to alien sensors. Foster's specialty was psychological warfare. Her teams did not just destroy military targets. They made the Council forces feel unsafe everywhere. Supply convoys disappeared without a trace. Communications networks went silent. Command officers vanished from their own headquarters. "The aliens are starting to panic," she reported during a secured transmission. "Their military commanders are afraid to leave their bunkers. They no longer trust their own security systems." The most significant victory came when Commander Greg Mitchell's expanded fighter wings intercepted a Council convoy carrying the galaxy's most advanced weapons technology. The convoy was heavily defended, but the human pilots had been training for exactly this type of mission. Mitchell's fighters used their superior speed and maneuverability to dart between the escort ships, targeting their weapon systems with surgical precision. The convoy's defenders found themselves unable to hit the agile human craft, while their own ships were systematically disabled. "Convoy neutralized," Mitchell reported. "Cargo ships captured intact." The captured alien technology was immediately transported to Dr. Nathan Clark's research facility on Earth. Clark had spent years studying alien science, but these new weapons represented technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans had seen before. "This changes everything," Clark told Dr. Maria Santos as they examined the captured devices. "With this technology, we can build weapons that will make our current arsenal look primitive." The most important discovery was a device that could disrupt the quantum foundations of faster-than-light travel. The aliens called it a space-time anchor, and it was designed to prevent enemy fleets from escaping during battle. In human hands, it became something far more powerful. "We can use this to trap entire Council fleets," Santos explained to General Pete Sullivan. "If we deploy these devices around their key systems, we can prevent them from coordinating their forces." As news of the human victories spread through Council space, panic began to replace confidence among the alien leadership. Species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia suddenly found themselves outmatched by creatures they had dismissed as primitive newcomers. Ambassador Zeth Kral received reports of the disasters from his command ship in the Alpha Centauri system. Each new message brought worse news than the last. The Council's most important military facilities were being destroyed by human forces that appeared and disappeared like phantoms. How is this possible? He demanded of his intelligence chief, a spider-like creature with multiple eyes. 6 months ago, these humans were dependent on our technology for survival. It appears we underestimated their capabilities, the intelligence chief replied nervously. They have been preparing for this conflict far longer than we realized. The psychological impact proved as devastating as the physical damage. Council forces no longer felt safe anywhere in the galaxy. Their commanders issued contradictory orders, and their soldiers began to question whether their supposedly superior technology was actually superior at all. The age of Council dominance was ending, and every alien in the galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity had become the galaxy's newest apex predator. 3 months after humanity's devastating attacks across Council space, President Catherine Williams stood on the observation deck of her flagship, the ESS Liberty. Around her vessel floated the largest human fleet ever assembled, over 3 100 ships that represented the full might of Earth's military forces. Below them hung the ancient world of Galactus Prime, capital of the Galactic Council for 5,000 years. The planet's surface was covered with massive cities that housed the representatives of hundreds of alien species. This was the seat of galactic power, and today it would witness the end of an era. All ships report ready, Madam President, Admiral. Jack Morrison announced from his position at the tactical station. His weathered face showed no emotion, but Williams could see the satisfaction in his eyes. They had come a long way from that first desperate meeting 6 months ago. Open communications to the planetary government, Williams ordered. The response came immediately. Ambassador Zethkrill's crystalline form appeared on the main screen, his body flickering between colors as stress affected his energy patterns. Behind him, Williams could see other council members gathering in what appeared to be an emergency session. President Williams, Zethkrill said, his voice carrying none of its former arrogance, we request an immediate ceasefire. The council is prepared to negotiate. Williams stepped forward, her uniform crisp and her bearing confident. The time for negotiations is over, Ambassador. You chose war when you tried to starve humanity into submission. Now you will face the consequences. In the council chambers, on the planet below, panic had replaced the calm authority that had once defined galactic leadership. Species that had ruled star systems for millennia found themselves facing an enemy they could not understand or defeat, War Marshal Quinder. His military reputation in ruins after the disaster in the solar system made one final desperate proposal. We still have the ancient fleet, he told the assembled council members. The ships from the Golden Age, hidden in the Omega Vault for 3,000 years. The council members looked at each other with a mixture of hope and desperation. The ancient fleet was their last secret, vessels built by their ancestors using technology that had been lost to time. These ships were legends, weapons of unimaginable power that had once conquered entire galaxies. Deploy the ancient fleet, Zethkrill ordered. If we cannot defeat the humans with our current forces, we will use the weapons of the old empire. High, above the planet, Captain Lisa Rodriguez detected the energy signatures as massive ships began emerging from hidden facilities on the planet's moons. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Paul Richardson, counted them as they appeared. 60 ships total, he reported. Energy readings are off the charts. These vessels are using technology I have never seen before. Rodriguez studied the alien vessels. On her screen, they were beautiful in their own way, sleek designs that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Their hulls glowed with internal energy, and space itself seemed to bend around them. Signal Admiral Morrison, she ordered. The Council has played their final card. Admiral Morrison received the report aboard his own flagship and immediately contacted President Williams. Madam President, we are facing vessels that appear to use some form of dimensional technology. These ships may be more dangerous than anything we have encountered. Williams nodded grimly. Then we use everything we have. Signal Dr. Santos to activate the quantum disruption field. Dr. Maria Santos stood in the control center of humanity's most advanced weapon, a device that existed only in theory until 6 months ago. The quantum disruption system could interfere with the basic forces that held matter together, but it had never been tested on this scale. Charging quantum field generators, she announced to her team. All stations report ready for field activation. The ancient council fleet moved toward the human ships with confidence that had not been shaken in 3 millennia. Their commanders believed these vessels were invincible, weapons that could reshape reality itself. They had never faced human ingenuity backed by desperation. Captain Steve Parker, commanding the ESS Retribution, led the human response. His ship had been upgraded again with the latest technology captured from Council facilities. The quantum torpedoes in his weapon bays could now punch through dimensional barriers. "Target the lead vessel," he ordered his weapons officer, Lieutenant Sandra Walsh. "Let us see how ancient technology handles modern human engineering." The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The ancient alien ships fought with weapons that could tear holes in space itself, while the human fleet responded with tactics that seemed impossible to predict or counter. Commander Greg Mitchell's fighter squadrons swung around the massive alien vessels like insects attacking giants. Their enhanced reflexes allowed them to dodge energy beams that could vaporize asteroids, while their weapons targeted critical systems with precision that seemed supernatural. "These humans fight like demons," one of the ancient ship commanders reported. "They attack from directions that should not exist." The turning point came when Dr. Santos activated the quantum disruption field. The effect was immediate and devastating. The ancient ships, which depended on dimensional technology for their power, suddenly found themselves cut off from the energy sources that made them invincible. "Field activation complete," Santos reported. "All enemy vessels are now operating on backup power only." Without their dimensional weapons, the ancient fleet became vulnerable to conventional attack. Captain Rodriguez's ships closed in like wolves on wounded prey, their quantum torpedoes tearing through hulls that had been considered indestructible. Within an hour, the legendary fleet was nothing but glowing debris drifting in space. The Council's final hope had been crushed by human technology and tactics that defied every principle of galactic warfare. On the planet below, the council chambers had fallen silent. Ambassador Zethkral stared at the tactical displays showing the destruction of their most powerful weapons. Around him, representatives from dozens of species sat in stunned disbelief. "It is over," War Marshal Quinder said quietly. "We have nothing left to fight with." President Williams appeared on the chamber's main screen, her image broadcast to every council member simultaneously. "The ancient fleet is destroyed," she announced. "Your military forces are scattered across the galaxy. You have one choice remaining: surrender or face complete annihilation." The formal surrender ceremony took place in the same chamber where the council had voted to impose sanctions on humanity just 9 months earlier. Williams walked through halls that had witnessed the rise and fall of galactic empires, accompanied by Admiral Morrison and Dr. Nathan Clark. The terms of surrender were simple and non-negotiable. The Council would recognize human sovereignty over all current colonies and any future expansion. Reparations would be paid for the attempted destruction of human civilization. Most importantly, humanity would receive a permanent seat on the Nidak, Council's ruling body with veto power over all major decisions. "The galaxy has a new order," Williams announced as she signed the documents that ended the war. "Humanity will take its place among the stars, not as servants or junior partners, but as equals who earned their position through strength and determination." Admiral Morrison was appointed as Earth's first galactic military commander, while Dr. Clark became humanity's chief diplomatic representative. The transition of power was swift and complete. Within weeks, human patrol ships began appearing throughout the galaxy, protecting trade routes that had once been controlled exclusively by Council forces. The species that had once dismissed humanity as primitive, upstarts now sought their protection and partnership. Captain Parker's ESS Retribution led the first joint expedition to the galactic rim, carrying colonists and explorers from both human and alien worlds toward stars that had been forbidden to younger species for millennia. The galaxy, vast and full of opportunities, belonged to those bold enough to claim it. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun.